I would like to begin by acknowledging the Yugambeh people, traditional custodians of the land on which I live, and pay my respects to all elders past, present and emerging. I would also like to advise that this video contains images of deceased Aboriginal people. Growing up in suburban southeast Brisbane, almost all my early interactions were with white, non-Indigenous Australians, this course literature being my first exposure to any real knowledge of Indigenous Australians and their culture and history. This new knowledge was different from the archetypes and stereotypical views and ideas I had subconsciously held. During my schooling, I remember learning about the event colonisation, about James Cook and the First Fleet, not of invasion and the 150-year-long horrific process of dispossession, violent conflict, and the ongoing resistance and resilience of the Aboriginal people. I learnt of Burke and Wills and Ned Kelly, but not of first Australian heroes like Jandamarra and Pumulwuy. Why aren't we honouring our Indigenous culture? Why do we continue to forget first Australian people? The truth of colonisation was confronting for me. I felt angry and deeply saddened to discover that Australia was born on the lie that was Terra Nullius, and heartbroken at the engineering of the undeniable socio-economic disparity and the oppression of first Australians. I now live in Jimboomba, meaning the place of thunder and little rain, land belonging to the Yugambeh people. The estate I live in has only recently been established, and as I step out my front door, I observe the continued land clearing and building with fresh eyes. I wonder if the traditional owners of the land have been rightly consulted and given their free, prior and informed consent into the developing of the area. Walking mindfully on country in my local area, I am overwhelmed to find there is little evidence of Indigenous Australians having ever lived here, or any real visible valuing of their culture in the local environment at all. Despite a few Aboriginal street signs, flags displayed at the local library, and a rock accompanied by a tiny plaque from the land of the Mununjal people outside, it seems that through forced assimilation, the culture of first Australians has been hidden and is not honoured in the mainstream dominant culture, its structures or way of life. Saddened, I turn to books to uncover, for myself, some Indigenous history of my area, discovering that the river where I walk my dog almost daily was once home to the Gundjinjin clan of the Yugambeh people, expert makers of cone-shaped nets who would fish in the river and catch kangaroos. As I sit on the same riverbank and reflect on my thoughts, I feel a deeper sense of connection to the Indigenous people who once lived here, and a sense of sorrow as I ponder what my local area and environment could have been like had there been proper negotiations and treaties at the time of colonisation, where white settlers walk side by side with Aboriginal people, learning from one another instead of the horrors that ensued. I can't imagine being forced from my home, being denied basic human rights, being stripped of my self-determination, and I begin to realise my own level of privilege. Where was the consideration of their sovereign rights to maintain their land and cultural practices? This now shapes my understanding and gives me deeper meaning to the importance of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People and the doctrine of native title that Eddie Mabo fought so hard for. Looking forward, I see a big part of the improved valuing of Indigenous culture in our young children of today. I work in early childhood education, and I'm proud to say that there, Indigenous culture is highly visible and embedded into the children's learning environment and our everyday practices. Dr. Tom Culmer proudly states that first Australians are the longest surviving culture in the world. They should be recognised, respected, valued and celebrated. And I'm hopeful that teaching this to our children can lead to a part of healing, transformation and a place of partnership together.